Bruno, how did you start wrestling?
Well, I was first interested when I was about 8 years of age in Italy. A man by the name of Giovanni Battisti started me. He was a great Greco-Roman wrestler, won the Olympic Games for Italy, and he's the one who started me actually at that age of 8 in Italy.
In this country, how did you start?
Well, in this country, when I came over, I had some American promoters who had seen me in my amateur days. They saw what I could do. I was especially good, I think, in Greco-Roman wrestling. And, well, a man named Rudy Miller, he wanted to try me out in the pros. Thought that maybe I could make it, and he's the one actually who took me to Washington, D.C., where they made me work out with a couple of professionals, and that's how I actually turned pro.
How often do you wrestle?
How often do I wrestle? Oh, anywhere from 3 to 5 days a week.
When do you get some time off?
Well, usually when you get an injury, that's when you get your vacation. I've had my share of injuries, which have kept me away from wrestling for as much as a week, 2, and even 3, depending on the injury. If it's a broken rib, usually a week, or one time a chipped collarbone kept me for a couple of weeks. And this, of course, is my vacation time. That's the time when I get a chance to take my wife to Florida or wherever we choose to go.
What's the most serious injury you've had?
The most serious? Well, the most serious. I've had, well, the one that's still bothering me the most, I think, is my earring, because my earring has been affected a great deal. Besides that, I've had my elbows, which I've chipped bones so badly that I can't straighten them too well, and they ache because they pinch at nerves at times. And my back, I've hurt my back several times. I've damaged a couple of discs, which bother me occasionally. But I can't pick one and say which is the worst. They're all pretty bad.
Being on the road as much as you are, what's this do to your family life? You don't get to see them, obviously, very often.
No, I get to see my family on Sundays. Usually doesn't matter what part of the country I'm in or Canada. I usually fly home, and once a month I wrestle here in Pittsburgh at the Civic Arena, and occasionally on a television program here in Pittsburgh. So I'd say that I'd average maybe sometimes once, sometimes twice, 2 days a week that I do get home. But then, of course, there's times when I don't get home for 3 and 4 weeks at a time.
Does it bother you a great deal not being able to see your family?
Yes, this is the part of the game that I don't like. I have, as you know, 3 children and my wife, and being away from them makes it pretty rough. This is the thing that I think will eventually cause my retirement.
I imagine you've been asked this many times, but isn't wrestling phony?
Well, this is the question that we're always been asked. Wrestling to me is like anything else. To be a winner means to be a moneymaker. Nobody wants to be a loser, because in being a loser, it's just like, let's say in baseball, football, and whatever. You have your stars that make 100 or better, thousands of dollars a year. Then you have your average player was maybe making $8,000 a year, and I don't think he's happy with $8,000. If he could make more, he would make more. Same thing with our business. If you're good, if you have the ability, you're going to make a lot of money. If not, you're going to be in that same as any other athlete. And if it was phony, as many people wonder, only a fool would choose to be a loser and be kept down, let's say, in his wages when he wouldn't have to.
Speaking of money, would you mind telling us how much a year you've made or making?
Well, I'll just put it to you this way. I'd say that a top wrestler can make well over $100,000 a year as far as just for wrestling itself.
You're a top wrestler. You're the champ.
Well, I can't complain. Wrestling has been very good to me.
Getting back to wrestling itself, the act of wrestling, do you rehearse?
As big a brain as Einstein was, I don't believe he could have ever rehearsed a wrestling match if he were a wrestler, because some of these matches are very long. Sometimes they're only 15, 20, and 30 minutes long. But I've been in matches that have lasted an hour and a half and 2 hours, and in fact one in Japan was even over 2 hours. I don't even believe that a genius could rehearse something that has so much action that lasts so long. It's ridiculous to even. How do you rehearse a big body slam or a flying out of the ring? I mean, how do you rehearse something like that?
Doesn't another wrestler know what you're going to do, and don't you know what he's going to do?
No.
How do you stay in condition? Now, I understand that when you came over from Italy as a teenager, you weighed 120 pounds.
I weighed even less than that, quite a bit less than that. But how do I stay in condition? First of all, when you wrestle 4 and 3 and 5 days a week, let's say, this is enough to keep you in shape. But I, for myself and a lot of the fellas, do more than this. I like to work out with the weights because the weights harden the muscle, and when you take these big falls that we do take, this is, I believe, what absorbs these hard bumps, because as you know, we're not like a ball player with all kinds of padding. We go in there with a pair of shoes and tights, and so naturally the better shape you're in, the less chance of getting hurt. And I do all different kind of training for wind and so forth, but as far as for the muscle, the hardness of the muscle in the bodies, I don't think anything can beat weightlifting.
Is that how you built yourself up as a youngster, weighing about, as you said, less than 100?
Yes, I'd have to give the credit to the weights, because wrestling itself, you can improve in the knowledge of wrestling and wind-wise and so forth, endurance-wise. But as far as actual size, I don't believe that there's anything that will put actual size on your body like weights will.
What's your attitude toward the fans? Now, there is a wrestling fan.
The fans are great. The fans are great. Everywhere that I've been throughout the world, the fans are fantastic. They're beautiful. But there are some fans that I'm a little bit against, and I mean those that will come to the arenas prepared, let's say, with some with apples and oranges, and in some cases I've even seen some come with bottles to throw at the man that they dislike. This makes it dangerous for me too, because they could miss my opponent if in that case they are on my side, let's say. I don't like that. I think that, like I say, 99% of the fans are just great. I know, for speaking for myself, they treat me wonderful, no complaints whatsoever. But for that 1%, I am against, because they're extremely dangerous. We've had some wrestlers who have gotten their heads split with bottles, and have been knifed and very badly hurt, and this isn't right. I don't think that people, if they can control their emotions, they shouldn't go to the arenas. They should watch it at home on television.
Will you cut a second, please?
In wrestling, one night you might be in Madison Square Garden, and the next night or a night later you might be in a small town like Allentown, Pennsylvania. What's it like for you to make that transition?
Well, what's it like? Madison Square Garden, naturally, when you hear of Madison Square Garden, you hear of the arena that is known throughout the world, the most famous arena in the world. But people are people. Whether it's Madison Square Garden, you're wrestling before an audience, and even though a place like Allentown doesn't hold, let's say, the 15 or 20,000 people, it may only hold 2,000 people, but these are 2,000 people that pay to come and see you. So to me, really, I'm not going to tell you it doesn't matter, because naturally I love the game, but I'm in it for money too, and the purse naturally is going to be much bigger in Madison Square Garden. But I love to wrestle in a place like Allentown, because these are people that love wrestling and they paid to come and see me. So I'll wrestle just as hard for them as I would in Madison Square Garden or any other arena.
You're 30 years old. How long do you intend to stay wrestling?
Well, as long as I'm champion, I'm going to stay with it. But when I lose the title, that's when I'm going to quit.
What do you plan on doing when you retire?
Well, I hope that I have made some wise investments, and I hope that I will not have any financial problems. And I do have some ideas on what I'd like to do. Perhaps I'd like to go into the promotional business, and I'd like to open up a couple of businesses. Before I became a professional wrestler, I was a carpenter, and real estate always has interested me, and maybe something on those lines, but nothing 100% definite yet. Love to.
You're the champion. What does that mean to you?
Well, it means a lot to me, because I'm not a man who can boast about an educational background. I have hardly any. I came from Italy, and I came to this great country where I got all my opportunities. Over here, I had a chance to train and develop myself into what I am, and I was fortunate enough to get a crack at the title, as we say, and win it, and which could only happen here as far as I'm concerned. And it has made me see the world, because I've traveled all over the world as a professional wrestler. And it's been very rewarding to me financially and otherwise. But the greatest of everything, as far as my life goes, because of my family, is that no matter where I go around the world, it's always great to come back to the good old USA, because there is no country like America.
Isn't wrestling phony? I'll do that again. I know you've been asked this many times, but isn't wrestling phony? Do you rehearse with another wrestler before you go in the ring?
Excuse me, John.
Yeah?
And like I say, no matter how I answer.
Tell them what you really think of them.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well.
Bruno, how often do you wrestle? I know you've been asked this many times, but isn't wrestling basically phony?
Last one.
Do you rehearse with another wrestler before you go into a match?
No. Ask it again, John.
Bruno, do you rehearse with another wrestler?
No.
What does being champion mean to you? How long do you intend to keep on wrestling?